Look closely at the people around you. They smile. They offer warm handshakes. They play the part of the supportive ally flawlessly. But what if the entire social order is an elaborate theater? What if the world secretly rewards the cold, the calculated, and those who are absolutely impossible to manipulate? Niccolò Machiavelli spent his entire life documenting a brutal reality. The masses live in a fantasy of moral ideals, while the true architecture of the world is run by individuals who master the dark mechanics of human nature. Today, we are stripping away the comforting lies. You are about to discover 7 hidden laws of human psychology that society deliberately keeps obscured. Once you internalize these Machiavellian principles, the illusions of the crowd will shatter permanently, and you will never view human behavior the same way again. If you are ready to stop operating as a pawn on someone else's chessboard, hit that subscribe button immediately. Drop a comment below right now. I see through the mask. Let us begin the execution. Law 1. The trap of compliance. The desperation for validation destroys real authority. One of the most catastrophic strategic errors an individual can commit is entering a room begging for acceptance. Niccolò Machiavelli noted that the desperate hunger for approval is the exact point where your sovereign power terminates and someone else's control begins. Consider the classic people pleaser. They swallow their true opinions, force artificial laughter at terrible jokes, and eagerly overextend their energy to keep everyone comfortable. They believe they are building social capital. In reality, they are broadcasting their vulnerability. From childhood, the social engine conditions you to be accommodating, predictable, and compliant. But a sharp Machiavellian mind understands a darker truth. The crowd never truly respects what it can effortlessly control. When people realize your internal emotional state depends on their validation, they instinctively begin to weaponize that dependency. They will use subtle emotional withdrawals, calculated silence, and sudden coldness to force you into a state of psychological submission. They don't even have to plan this maliciously. Human nature naturally tests boundaries to find the path of least resistance. Niccolò Machiavelli made it clear that those who command deep respect do not plead for it. Look at any professional or social hierarchy. The individual who constantly begs for praise is routinely bypassed. Meanwhile, the composed, emotionally detached strategist who handles themselves with absolute self-possession naturally commands the room. This is not about adopting an arrogant persona. It is about cultivating total emotional autonomy. When you stop chasing the validation of the collective, an immediate power shift occurs. Your speech becomes precise. Your posture becomes unshakable. You no longer over-explain your tactical decisions. Be the cat, not the desperate dog. The dog performs tricks and exhausts itself for a scrap of attention. The cat remains entirely self-contained, detached, and indifferent to the room. Paradoxically, it is the cat's absolute refusal to beg that makes its presence magnetic. True psychological peace begins the moment you remove your sense of self-worth from the erratic hands of the crowd. Law 2. The currency of information rapidity is the ultimate weapon for your adversaries. The modern world praises total transparency. We are told that raw vulnerability is the highest form of human connection. But if Niccolò Machiavelli was standing in the room with you today, he would tell you that oversharing is nothing less than tactical suicide. Most people treat their minds like an open book, eagerly broadcasting their deep insecurities, past traumas, and long-term ambitions to anyone who offers a sympathetic ear. They assume honesty builds a shield of safety. It does not. Information is the ultimate currency of leverage, and once you hand it over, you can never reclaim it. Niccolò Machiavelli observed that the average human being is a natural collector of data. People are constantly quietly mapping out your emotional triggers and structural blind spots. Not everyone listening to your story is an ally. Many are simply conducting a psychological audit. We see this tragic script play out constantly. The moment a close friendship fractures or a professional alliance dissolves, the very vulnerabilities you shared in confidence are instantly refashioned into weapons. Your past mistakes are brought to light, and your private anxieties are used to undermine your authority. The ancient wartime phrase warns us: loose lips, sink ships. In the theater of daily life, careless talking completely dismantles your psychological defense grid. When an opponent maps out exactly what makes you angry, what makes you insecure, and what you crave, they can orchestrate your downfall without ever raising their voice. Amateurs speak to fill the void. Masters use silence as an intelligence-gathering tool. By remaining tight-lipped and observant, you force others to speak first. The individual who talks excessively will invariably expose their hidden motives, leaving themselves completely exposed. Control your narrative with an iron fist. Genuine connection requires trust, but trust must be earned through verified long-term data, never given freely out of a lazy desire for short-term comfort. Guard your inner world, because the less your enemies know about your emotional foundation, the more impossible it becomes for them to destabilize your kingdom. Law 3. The revelation of leveraged true character escapes only when the mask is unnecessary. Niccolò Machiavelli famously wrote that the vast majority of mankind is easily deceived by superficial presentations. A person can easily mimic humility, kindness, and loyalty for years when they occupy a lower position and possess absolutely no social leverage. But do not confuse a lack of opportunity with a genuine lack of malice. The real test of an individual's character never occurs when they are struggling beneath you. It begins the exact millisecond they gain an advantage over you. Power does not fundamentally alter a human being. It simply provides them with the security required to remove their social mask. Have you ever witnessed a colleague land a minor promotion and instantly transform into a petty tyrant? Have you seen a friend achieve financial success and suddenly view your existence with thinly veiled condescension? These individuals didn't change overnight. Their authentic, predatory nature was simply granted the freedom to express itself without consequence. Niccolò Machiavelli focused extensively on how effortlessly human beings alter their behavior, based entirely on what benefits their immediate self-interest. To master this perspective, you must stop listening to what people say and start watching how they execute their daily interactions. Watch how a person interacts with someone who can offer them absolutely nothing in return. Observe how they treat a waiter, a subordinate, or an administrative assistant. Notice the swiftness with which their tone shifts when they speak to an influential executive versus someone they deem insignificant. That calculated shift in warmth tells you everything you will ever need to know about their psychological blueprint. An insecure person who acquires a small taste of authority will instantly use it to dominate others, relying on control to mask their internal inadequacies. Conversely, a truly sovereign, capable leader has no interest in performing dominance. They simply operate from a position of quiet, undeniable strength. Stop evaluating people based on their charm or polished rhetoric. Watch their actions when they believe no one is keeping score, because when the performance finally ends, the truth is laid bare. Law 4. The strategic fence. Nines without iron limits is an invitation for exploitation. Let us shatter a highly dangerous social myth. Being an endlessly pure, soft-hearted person does not secure your safety in this world. In fact, If you lack strategic boundaries, your benevolence functions as an open invitation for wolves to feast on your resources. Many good-natured individuals navigate life under the delusion that the world operates on a cosmic system of fairness. They expect their loyalty to be mirrored, their sacrifices to be celebrated, and their kindness to be protected. When they are met with cold exploitation, their entire reality collapses. Niccolò Machiavelli argued that an individual who attempts to act virtuous in every single scenario will inevitably be ruined by the sheer volume of people who are entirely unprincipled. The harsh truth is that opportunists do not respect your kindness. They view your empathy as a tactical weakness to be systematically mined. In corporate offices, social groups, and families, the individual who cannot say no is invariably burdened with the collective exhaustion of the group. They are transformed into an emotional dumping ground, expected to absorb disrespect while maintaining a pleasant demeanor. They sacrifice their personal peace to prevent the discomfort of others until they are completely hollowed out. There is a profound psychological weight behind the old maxim, "Good fences make good neighbors." A fence is not an act of active aggression. It is a clear structural declaration of where your territory ends and the outside world begins. Without distinct, unyielding boundaries, people will continuously encroach on your time, your money, and your psychological energy. They don't do this out of pure villainy. They do it because human behavior naturally flows into any unprotected space. Niccolò Machiavelli understood that your presentation dictates your treatment. If you broadcast an inability to defend your peace, you become a high-value target for manipulators. Learning to disappoint people is an essential Machiavellian skill. When you establish a firm boundary, the parasites who enjoyed your lack of limits will immediately accuse you of changing or becoming cold. Let them. That reaction is merely proof that your boundary is working. True self-preservation isn't selfish. It is the ultimate realization that your energy belongs to your kingdom alone. Law 5. The power of the empty chair, the absolute sovereignty of solitude. Society harbors an intense, deep-seated terror of isolation. The collective structure is designed to keep you perpetually connected, constantly communicating, and endlessly distracted. If an individual chooses to spend significant time alone, the crowd immediately labels them with suspicion. But ask yourself this critical question: why is society so terrified of a person who is entirely comfortable in their own company? The answer is simple. An individual who does not fear loneliness is completely immune to social coercion. Niccolò Machiavelli recognized that emotional dependency is the primary lever used to control human behavior. When you are terrified of being cast out of the group, you will compromise your morals, tolerate horrific disrespect, and accept terrible arrangements just to keep your seat at the table. Your fear of the dark makes you an easy target for anyone offering a temporary light. Niccolò Machiavelli knew that a desperate man makes terrible decisions. When you no longer require a crowded room to feel secure, you stop settling for half-hearted loyalty and transactional friendships. You develop a quiet gravity. People realize they cannot use the threat of rejection to control your behavior, because you are perfectly content to pack up your pieces and walk away from the board entirely. Law 6. The unconscious program, destructing the social matrix. The vast majority of human beings are not actively steering their own lives. They are running on pre-installed cultural software. From the moment they enter the world, they are handed a pre-packaged script for success: chase status symbols, conform to peer expectations, stay exceptionally busy, and never question the overarching narrative. They spent decades climbing a ladder, only to realize in their final years that the ladder was resting against the entirely wrong wall. Niccolò Machiavelli focused heavily on the immense hypnotic power of social conditioning. He understood that the ruling elite remain in power because the masses prefer the comfort of collective imitation over the terrifying responsibility of independent thought. People conform not because they want to, but because they are utterly terrified of the isolation that comes with standing outside the herd. Look closely at modern culture. It is a non-stop, high-speed engine of low-grade stress and hyper-consumption. People wake up and instantly anchor their minds to global anxiety through digital screens. They exhaust their health to secure money they don't need, to impress people they don't even like. It is a slow, methodical erasure of the sovereign self. A true Machiavellian psychological architect steps completely outside this matrix. They do not adopt habits or chase goals simply because the crowd has deemed them valuable. They dissect everything. Is this professional path genuinely fueling my grand strategy? Or am I just addicted to the praise of my peers? Is this relationship elevating my mind? Or is it a socially approved distraction, keeping me weak? When you break the cycle of reflexive imitation, you become highly dangerous to the established order. You can no longer be corralled by trends or manipulated by manufactured outrage. You become still, calculated, and profoundly intentional, while the masses are running around in a state of chronic panic. You are quietly observing the board, identifying the structural faults and positioning yourself for absolute leverage. Law 7, the sovereign autonomy, the total refusal to provide a defense. We arrive at the absolute crown jewel of Machiavellian psychological discipline, the total, unshakable realization that you do not require the understanding of the world to maintain your power. An extraordinary amount of human suffering is born from the exhausting, futile attempt to force respect from individuals who are actively committed to misinterpreting your character. When someone hurls a false accusation or misreads your actions, your natural human instinct is to launch a frantic, detailed defense. You write long messages, explain your pure intentions, and beg them to see your perspective. Niccolò Machiavelli understood that this is a massive psychological trap. The moment you enter a formal defense against a toxic presence, you have conceded your high ground. You have signaled to them that their opinion has the power to disrupt your internal state. The masses filter reality through the narrow lens of their own deep insecurities, personal traumas, and competitive envy. You cannot correct their distorted lens with more explanations, because they aren't searching for the truth, they are searching for ammunition to bring you down to their level. True Machiavellian maturity means getting entirely comfortable with being completely misunderstood. As Niccolò Machiavelli proved across the pages of history, silence is not a concession of defeat. Silence is the highest form of strategic intelligence. It is the ultimate act of self-respect. When you deny an antagonist a visible reaction, you strip them of their leverage and leave them to suffocate in their own emotional noise. Before you leave, drop your final thoughts in the comments below. Which of these 7 laws resonated with your personal journey the most? Stay observant, stay calculated, and remember, absolute clarity is power. Until next time, protect your mind and guard your peace, and don't forget to subscribe.